What if I told you that the way you earn money might actually be the reason you'll never be financially free? Sounds shocking, right? But that's exactly what Robert Kiyosaki explains in his book Cash Flow Quadrant. In this video, we're going to break down the entire book, the 4 different ways people make money, and why some paths lead to freedom while others keep you trapped for life. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, wrote Cash Flow Quadrant as the second step in financial education. If Rich Dad Poor Dad was about the mindset of the rich versus the poor, this book goes deeper. It shows the actual paths people take when it comes to making money. And once you see these paths clearly, you'll understand why the rich keep getting richer, and why the middle class often struggles no matter how hard they work. So grab a notebook, because I'm going to walk you through the 4 quadrants, the mindset shifts you need, and the practical lessons you can apply to your life today. By the end of this video, you'll have a roadmap to financial freedom. Let's start with the core of the book, the cash flow quadrant. Imagine a square divided into 4 sections, like a window with 4 panes. Each section represents a different way of earning money. The left side is the employee and the self-employed. The right side is the business owner and the investor. The first quadrant is E for employee. This is where most people live. Employees work for someone else. They trade their time and skills for a paycheck. The advantage here is stability. You know what you're going to earn every 2 weeks, and that makes it feel safe. But here's the catch: employees are taxed the most. They have little control over their income. If the company downsizes, or if the economy crashes, employees are the first to suffer. And most importantly, employees are stuck in the time for money trap. You work, you get paid. You stop working, you stop getting paid. Think about it, most schools teach us to become good employees. Get good grades, so you can get a good job. But what Kiyosaki says is that this path rarely leads to financial freedom. Instead, it often leads to dependency and stress. The second quadrant is S for self-employed. These are people who work for themselves, freelancers, consultants, doctors, small business owners. At first, this feels like freedom. You're your own boss, you don't answer to anyone, and you decide how things are done. But the reality is, you still don't have true freedom. You're still trading time for money. A self-employed person might earn more than an employee, but if they stop working, the money stops too. A doctor can't earn income if they're not seeing patients. A freelancer can't get paid if they don't deliver work. Kiyosaki warns that many people in this quadrant get stuck. They work harder than employees, take more risks, and often pay even more in taxes. And eventually, burnout sets in. So, while being self-employed is a step up in control, it's not the ultimate path to financial freedom. The third quadrant is B for business owner. Now, this is where things start to change. Business owners build systems. They hire people, create processes, and leverage other people's time and skills to generate income. The key difference is leverage. Think about McDonald's. Ray Kroc didn't just sell burgers, he built a system where thousands of people could sell burgers for him. He didn't need to flip patties to make money. The business ran without him. That's the true power of the B quadrant. As a business owner, you don't trade your hours for dollars. You build something that continues to produce income even when you're not there. And the tax benefits here are massive. Business owners can legally use the tax system to their advantage, paying far less than employees or self-employed people. Kiyosaki explains that this is one of the main reasons the rich keep getting richer. They play in the business quadrant, where money multiplies through systems and teams, not through hours worked. And then we have the fourth quadrant, I for investor. This is the final level of financial freedom. Investors put their money to work for them. Instead of working for money, money works for them. This could be stocks, bonds, real estate, owning shares in businesses, or other income-producing assets. The investor doesn't need to be physically present to earn money. Their wealth grows passively. And like business owners, investors enjoy the lowest tax rates because governments reward people who create value and stimulate the economy. Kiyosaki says the ultimate goal is to move to the right side of the quadrant, B and I, because that's where financial freedom lives. Employees and self-employed people might earn a living, but business owners and investors build wealth. Now that we've broken down the quadrants, let's move to the mindset shifts you need to make if you want to move from the left side to the right side. The most important lesson from Cashflow Quadrant is this: financial freedom is a mindset shift before it's a money shift. If you think like an employee, even if you start a business, you'll run it like a job. If you think like an investor, you'll see opportunities where others see risks. Here are 3 mindset shifts Kiyosaki emphasizes. 1. From security to freedom. Most people want security, steady paycheck, benefits, retirement plan. But real freedom comes when you take control of your own income. 2. From working hard to building systems. Employees and self-employed people think hard work equals success. Business owners and investors think systems, leverage, and cash flow. 3. From avoiding risk to managing risk. The poor and middle class avoid risk. The rich learn to manage it. They educate themselves financially so they can make smarter moves with money. These mindset shifts are what separate the financially free from the financially trapped. Okay, so how do you actually apply this in your life? Here are some practical lessons from the book that you can use right away. 1. Start small with investing. You don't need millions to be an investor. Even small amounts in index funds, real estate, or side businesses can get your money working for you. 2. Build assets, not liabilities. Always ask, is this purchase putting money in my pocket or taking it out? Assets create income, liabilities create expenses. 3. Focus on cash flow, not just salary. A high salary feels good, but it's still active income. Instead, think in terms of recurring income, rental properties, dividends, royalties, or automated businesses. 4. Invest in financial education. The rich read books, attend seminars, hire mentors, and constantly learn about money. The more financially educated you are, the better decisions you'll make. 5. Surround yourself with the right people. If you hang around only employees, you'll think like an employee. If you spend time with entrepreneurs and investors, you'll start to think differently about money. Kiyosaki reminds us, it's not about getting rich quick. It's about shifting how you see money and building long-term wealth through smart choices. So let's recap. The Cashflow Quadrant teaches us that there are 4 ways to make money: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. The left side gives you security but keeps you trapped. The right side gives you freedom and wealth. And the key to moving from left to right isn't just money, it's mindset, education, and action. If there's one thing to take away from this book, it's this: don't just work for money. Build systems and investments that let money work for you. That's the path to financial freedom. If you enjoyed this summary, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And let me know in the comments. Which quadrant are you in right now, and which one do you want to move to? Thanks for watching, and remember, financial freedom isn't a dream, it's a decision. One thing Robert Kiyosaki really emphasizes in Cashflow Quadrant is how taxes affect each quadrant differently. Employees are taxed before they ever see their money. That's why paychecks feel smaller than expected. Self-employed people often pay even more, because they get hit with both income tax and self-employment tax. Business owners, however, get to deduct expenses before paying taxes. For example, they can write off office costs, travel, even cars used for business. And investors? They often pay the least. Capital gains tax, rental property deductions, and other incentives make it possible for investors to legally keep more of what they earn. The key lesson here is, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Understanding taxes is one of the biggest advantages of moving from the left side to the right side of the quadrant. Kiyosaki also talks about how fear controls people's financial lives. Employees fear losing their jobs, so they cling to security. Self-employed people fear giving up control, so they do everything themselves. But business owners and investors learn to use fear differently. They don't let it freeze them, they let it guide their learning. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" they ask, "How can I manage this risk?" The big shift is when you stop letting fear of loss control you, and instead start focusing on the freedom you'll gain. Kiyosaki repeats this idea over and over: financial education is more important than money itself. Why? Because without the right knowledge, even if you win the lottery, you'll lose it all. That's why so many athletes and celebrities go broke. Financial education means learning the language of money, things like cash flow, assets versus liabilities, ROI, leverage, and taxes. It means practicing how to read financial statements, understanding debt, and knowing how to evaluate investments. If you don't understand money, you'll always work for someone who does. Kiyosaki repeats this idea over and over: financial education is more important than money itself. Why? Because without the right knowledge, even if you win the lottery, you'll lose it all. That's why so many athletes and celebrities go broke. Financial education means learning the language of money, things like cash flow, assets versus liabilities, ROI, leverage, and taxes. It means practicing how to read financial statements, understanding debt, and knowing how to evaluate investments. If you don't understand money, you'll always work for someone who does. You might be wondering, how do people actually move from one quadrant to another? Here are some real-world examples. An employee who invests part of their paycheck into real estate eventually replaces their salary with rental income, moving into the investor quadrant. A freelance web designer, self-employed, who hires other designers and builds an agency becomes a business owner. A teacher who writes an online course once and sells it for years moves from active income to passive income. The transitions don't happen overnight, but they start with small decisions, choosing to build assets instead of only chasing paychecks. Another core message of the book is focus on cash flow, not net worth. Most people brag about how much they make a year or how big their house is. But the rich ask, how much passive cash flow do I have every month? If your job pays $5,000 a month, that's active income. If you own rental properties that bring in $5,000 a month, that's passive income, and you don't need to show up to earn it. Kiyosaki says the goal isn't to get rich once. It's to build steady streams of cash flow that keep flowing no matter what. Here's the truth: most people will spend their whole lives stuck in the employee quadrant because it feels safe. But safe doesn't mean free. Safe doesn't mean wealthy. Kiyosaki's message is simple: if you want freedom, you have to take responsibility. You have to learn about money, take small risks, and start building assets today. Every dollar you earn is a soldier. You can either spend it and lose it, or you can train it to go out, bring back more dollars, and keep working for you. That's how you build financial independence.